The sun dipped low behind the rocky hills of New Arizona as Ethan Rourke pulled his old truck into the driveway of the ranch he had just bought for $1. The land stretched for miles, golden with dry grass and surrounded by rusted wire. Fences. The house itself stood crooked and quiet, half swallowed by weeds, its windows dark like eyes that hadn't blinked in years. The air smelled like dust and something old. Ethan stepped out of the truck, boots crunching on gravel, and unlocked the creaky front door with the single rusted key the auction clerk had handed him. As he entered, the floor groaned beneath him. The air was stale and dry. Empty beer bottles, broken furniture, and sun-bleached photos lay scattered across the floor. It looked abandoned for decades. Still, it was his now. He set down his bag, pulled off his jacket, and looked around. He was ready for silence and space. He wanted peace after the mess he'd left behind in the city. But that night, peace didn't come out. It started with footsteps upstairs soft, like bare feet on old wood. Ethan froze. He grabbed his flashlight and moved toward the staircase, heart thumping in his chest. The upstairs had no power, and the hallway light wouldn't switch on. The sound came again, slow steps, then silence. He climbed the stairs carefully, one step at a time, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. The hallway was narrow, with peeling wallpaper and 3 doors. The first 2 rooms were empty. Dust covered everything. The third door, the one at the very end, was locked. He pressed his ear to it. Nothing. Then, just as he turned to leave, something thumped from inside. A sharp, soft knock. Ethan stumbled back, breathing fast. He considered leaving the house, calling someone, doing anything but opening that door. But something deeper, curiosity, or maybe instinct, pushed him to act. He fetched his toolbox from the truck, returned upstairs, and worked the lock open. It took a while, and by the time the door creaked open, the sun had fully set and shadows danced in the corners. The room was dark. He stepped in slowly. The flashlight beam cut across stacked crates, old blankets, and piles of strange equipment, none of it earth-made. A chill moved through him. Then he heard breathing, not his own. Light, scared breathing. He turned sharply and pointed the light toward the far corner of the attic. And that's when he saw her. A girl, or what looked like a girl, crouched low behind the crates. Her skin shimmered faintly, glowing silver blue in the dark. Her eyes reflected the light like a cat's, wide and frightened. Long white hair clung to her shoulders, tangled and thin. Her arms wrapped around her knees as she watched him, like a cornered animal. She didn't speak at first. Neither did he. The flashlight shook slightly in his hand. She looked too real, too alive to be a hallucination. Slowly, she whispered, "Don't take me back." Ethan didn't move. The air in the attic felt frozen. The alien girl looked no older than 20 in human terms, but her features were sharp, strange cheekbones too high, ears pointed back, faint glowing lines moving beneath her skin like living tattoos. She stared at him with a mix of fear and exhaustion. He lowered the flashlight. "Who are you?" he asked, barely believing he was speaking to something not from Earth. She flinched. "You're not one of them?" Her voice was hoarse, uncertain. "Them?" Ethan stepped closer, slowly. She stood up, barely taller than his shoulder, her movements cautious but elegant, almost floating. "You're not Dominion?" she asked. Again, Ethan shook his head. "I don't even know what that is." There was silence again. She looked toward the small, broken attic window, eyes narrowing. "Then you shouldn't be here," she whispered. "They'll come back." Ethan's skin crawled. He'd come here for a fresh start, not some sci-fi nightmare. But now, standing in the quiet attic with this trembling alien girl in front of him, he felt something more than fear. He felt responsible. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said softly. "This place, just a ranch. I bought it yesterday." She looked down. "They left me here. They said they'd return. But they never did." Her voice cracked. "I thought I had more time." Ethan wanted answers, but she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. He offered his water bottle and a piece of jerky from his pocket. She hesitated, then took it. Her hands shook. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated again. "Sella." It was a strange name, but beautiful. Ethan nodded. "I'm Ethan." She looked up at him again, eyes glowing softly. "You shouldn't have opened that door, Ethan." Her voice was barely a whisper. And downstairs, unnoticed, the old security system blinked to life for the first time in years. A red light turned on. A signal had been sent. Something out there now knew Sella wasn't alone anymore. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat at the kitchen table, flashlight on, shotgun leaning against the wall, and his eyes fixed on the attic door. Upstairs, Sella slept curled in a pile of blankets, her strange glowing skin dimmed to a soft blue. He didn't know what to do. What was she? Why was she hiding here? Was she dangerous? Or in danger? The question kept circling in his mind. And then there was that blinking red light on the old panel near the stairs. He didn't remember seeing it before. It blinked once every few seconds. Quiet, unsettling, like a heartbeat. When the sun finally rose, Ethan made coffee and took a second mug upstairs. He knocked gently. No answer. Then the door creaked open by itself. Sella stood there, arms crossed, hair messy but eyes alert. She wore one of Ethan's old flannel shirts. It was too big on her, but she'd found it folded in a box and put it on. "You didn't leave," she said, voice flat. "I thought you would." Ethan handed her the mug. "Still deciding," he said. "What are you, Sella? Where did you come from?" She looked at the coffee, sniffed it, then took a small sip. Her nose wrinkled. "Bitter," she whispered. They sat together on the back porch. The desert morning was quiet, golden light spreading over cracked earth. Birds flew overhead, and somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed. It all felt too normal for what was happening. "I'm not from here," she said finally. "Not from this world. My ship crashed years ago. I ran from the others, those who captured me. They wanted to study me, keep me locked up. I escaped, found this place." She paused. "It was empty then." Ethan frowned. "You mean the government?" She shook her head. "No, worse, Dominion." The word sent a chill down his spine. He had heard whispers about the Dominion. They were something beyond human control, alien conquerors, traitors, spies. No one knew if they were real. They were ghost stories in military circles. "So you've been hiding here all this time?" he asked. She nodded. 5 Earth years, maybe more. I've lost track." Ethan studied her face. There was sadness in her eyes. Loneliness. "Why not leave? Find someone who could help you." Sella looked away. "Because no one helps my kind. They fear us. Or they sell us." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. She wasn't wrong. If someone had found her before him, she'd probably be in a lab right now, cut open, studied, forgotten. Sella watched him carefully. "You're different," she said. "You didn't call anyone. You didn't scream. You gave me food." "Doesn't mean I'm not still freaking out," Ethan said with a dry laugh. She smiled. Little for the first time. It was quick, small, but real. They spent the day talking. She told him about her world Geonis, a planet covered in oceans and floating cities. About the war between the Dominion and her people. About how her scout team was ambushed in Earth's orbit as she barely survived the crash. She thought The others were dead, or worse. Ethan showed her how to use the sink, how to turn on the generator, and introduced her to peanut butter, which she found both disgusting and addictive. It was strange, surreal, but peaceful. That evening, while Ethan fixed a broken water pipe near the barn, Sella wandered into the cellar. It was dusty, filled with old tools and crates. But then she saw it under a tarp, buried beneath wooden planks, a metal case. Familiar, alien. Her hands trembled as she pulled it out. The Dominion insignia glowed faintly on its side. No, she whispered. Her voice cracked. It wasn't just a hiding place. This ranch had been a station, a Dominion outpost. Ethan found her down there, frozen in front of the box. "What is it?" he asked. Sella stepped back. "This place?" This wasn't just a crash site. It was a trap. They brought me here on purpose. They used this house. They must have left when I escaped. Ethan opened the case. Inside were strange devices, blinking softly, pulsing with power. And something else, a small chip labeled with coordinates. He held it up. "What does this mean?" he asked. Salah's voice dropped. "It means they knew I was alive, and they were waiting." Upstairs, unnoticed, the blinking red light turned. Solid. A signal had been confirmed. Something was already on its way. Asterisk. The wind howled that night, kicking up dust across the ranch, as the stars above shimmered cold and distant. Inside the house, Ethan stood in front of the old panel where the red light had stopped blinking. Now it was solid bright and pulsing, like an angry warning. "What does it mean?" he asked again, but Sella didn't answer. She sat on the floor near the metal case from the cellar, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees, glowing skin dimmer than before. "It means they know I'm here," she said quietly. "It means someone out there heard the signal. And they will come." Ethan stared at the panel, jaw clenched. "Who exactly is coming?" She looked up, her silver eyes heavy with fear. "Dominion hunters. They don't ask questions. They don't take prisoners. Their job is to erase evidence me. The tech, everything." Ethan cursed under his breath and rubbed his hands through his hair. This was more than he signed up for. He just wanted land, quiet, maybe some cattle-knot alien assassins coming from the sky. Still, he couldn't walk away now. He looked at Sella and saw the truth in her face. She had no one else. "We have to do something," he said. "If they're coming, we can't just sit here and wait to die." Sella shook her head. "We can't run. They'll find us wherever we go." She reached into the Dominion case and pulled out a device that looked like a small glass sphere with lines of light moving inside it. "This is what they're after. This tech is forbidden, even to my kind. But I took it when I ran. It was supposed to keep me safe. Instead, it marked me." Ethan crouched beside her and studied the device. "What does it do?" She hesitated. "It holds data, memories, something the Dominion wants erased. I don't know all of it, only that I was told to protect it." Ethan stood and began pacing. "Okay, fine. So if we can't run, we defend. We make this place hard to take." Sella gave him a strange look. "You're serious?" He nodded. "You've survived here 5 years. Now it's my turn to help." She looked down. "You'd die for me?" He answered without thinking. "Maybe, but I'm hoping it doesn't come to that." The next morning, Ethan pulled his old gear from storage-rusted tools, spare wires, solar batteries. He once worked in scrap recovery, fixing abandoned machines in war zones. He used what little he had to rewire the outer fences, hide the Dominion, device underground, and turn the barn into a makeshift shelter. Sella helped, showing him how to use alien metals to reinforce walls and create basic shielding. They worked side by side, sharing long silences, small smiles, and careful glances. One evening, as the sun bled across the sky, Sella pointed to the stars and told them about her home. "It floated on oceans," she said. "The sky was always purple, and my mother used to sing to the sea." Her voice trembled. "I haven't heard that sound in years." Ethan sat beside her on the porch and handed her his old headphones. "Try this," he said, pressing play on a dusty music player. Soft human music flowed, simple guitar, and a lonely voice. She closed her eyes and listened, tears glowing as they rolled down her cheeks. "It's strange," she said, "but warm." That night, Ethan found her sleeping against the wall of his room, curled up in a blanket. He didn't wake her. He just watched her breathing slowly, as if for the first time she felt safe. The next day, a new problem arrived. A noise above barely. A hum, but not natural. Ethan ran outside and saw it. A drone, hovering high above the ranch. It was sleek, dark, and watching. "Not military. Dominion. They're here," Sella whispered from behind him. The drone vanished into the clouds a moment later, but the damage was done. It had scanned them. Ethan returned to the cellar and dug deeper around the hidden box. Beneath it, he found a second layer of tech, a Dominion relay, broken but still faintly powered. It must have been transmitting all along, activated by movement, and tied directly to the panel upstairs. They baited this place, he realized. Whoever sold it for $1 didn't just want to get rid of it. They wanted someone to come here. Someone like me. Sella said nothing, but her hand gripped his sleeve. "It's not your fault." Ethan turned to her. "Then whose fault is it that I care?" That night, he stayed up working on an empty device one that might disable Dominion tech long enough to buy them time. Sella watched him from the hallway, silent, eyes shining. In that moment, neither of them spoke, but something passed between them more powerful than words. As the stars brightened overhead and the wind picked up once again, a voice came through the old radio on the kitchen counter. It was distorted, deep, alien, and it said Ethan's name, asterisk the voice on the radio, was not human. It spoke in a low, broken pattern, with metallic echoes and unfamiliar syllables. But in the middle of the strange transmission, Ethan clearly heard his name again spoken like a warning. He yanked the plug from the wall, silencing it, but the damage had been done. Sella stood in the doorway behind him, face pale, shoulders tense. "They're not sending machines anymore," she whispered. "They're sending a living one." Ethan looked at her, heart pounding. "A living what?" She didn't answer right away. She walked to the back window and pointed toward the far hills, where the sky had turned gray and heavy. "Dominion doesn't waste drones once they confirm," she said softly. "They send a hunter one of their own. Fast, precise. It won't stop until I'm dead or taken." Ethan swallowed hard. The weight of the situation pressed into his chest. He thought he had time to prepare, time to figure things out, but now he knew they were out of time. He rushed to the barn where he had been assembling the makeshift EMP device, but it was unfinished, wires exposed, and battery cores still uncharged. He worked faster, sweat dripping from his neck as he soldered parts with shaking hands. Sella came to his side, placing her cool fingers over his. "Let me help," she said. Together, they finished the device by midnight, a pulsing box with 2 copper rings and a makeshift trigger. If it worked, it would knock out anything electronic for several hundred feet. If it failed, they were done. The wind outside changed, dropped suddenly too still. That was when they heard it. A high-pitched hum, barely noticeable, like the sound of pressure before a storm. Ethan stepped out into the darkness, shotgun on his back, hemp in his hands. Sella followed, her glowing tattoos flickering like warning lights under her skin. The ranch lay silent around them, the night sky crowded with clouds that didn't belong to Earth. And then, something moved near the tree line. A tall figure stepped forward, cloaked in armor that shimmered between reality and shadow. It had 4 glowing eyes, a long metallic blade strapped across its back, and a breathing system that hissed softly with each step. "That's not a drone," Ethan whispered. "No," Sella replied. "That's a tracker class. They don't speak. They just finish." The hunter walked slowly across the field, scanning the ranch with a device in its hand. Every movement was smooth, mechanical, patient. Ethan knew he had only one shot. If the MP failed, the creature would kill them both before he could reload. He set the device near the well, then crept back behind the barn with Sella. She held his arm tight, her nails digging in. "It's here for me," she said. "You don't have to do this." Ethan looked at her, eyes hard. "You're not dying. For someone else's war." The hunter paused, as if sensing something. Its eyes flickered. It turned toward the well, and then began to move fast, too fast. Ethan hit the trigger. The EMP burst with a flash of blue light and a high crackling sound. The air trembled. The hunter stumbled, its devices flickering. For a moment, it looked almost human in the dim flash, tall, lean, afraid. Then it roared and charged. Ethan raised the shotgun and fired. The blast hit center mass, knocking the hunter to the ground. But it wasn't dead. It rolled fast and struck Ethan with its armored fist. He hit the ground hard, head spinning. Sella screamed and rushed to his side. The hunter rose, limping, sparks flying from its shoulder. It reached for her with clawed hands, and that's when Sella reacted, not with fear, but with something primal. Her tattoos lit up, casting blue light across the field. Energy surged from her palms, striking the hunter with a burst of force that sent it flying back into the dirt. She stood between Ethan and the fallen enemy, breathing hard, glowing like a living flame. The hunter didn't move again. Ethan groaned and sat up, rubbing blood from his forehead. "That was new," he muttered. Sella looked at her hands, still sparking with alien energy. "I didn't know I could still do that," she whispered, but their relief didn't last. Behind them, the skies rumbled again. A faint red glow appeared far above, descending fast. Sella turned to Ethan, her face grim. "That wasn't the only one," she said. "That was just the scout." Ethan looked up, mouth dry. A second ship had entered the atmosphere, and this time it wasn't. Alone, asterisk. The ground shook beneath Ethan's boots as the second Dominion ship descended in the distance, a red glow carving across the dark sky like a blade through cloth. Sella stood beside him, still trembling from the surge of energy she had used to. Defeat the hunter. Smoke rose from the barn. The EMP device was fried, and Ethan's shotgun lay cracked near the well. He had nothing left but his fists, fear, and the burning need to keep her alive. They ran back inside the house, slamming the door shut, bolting it even though they both knew it wouldn't stop what was coming. Ethan dragged a shelf in front of the windows, while Sella stumbled into the kitchen, breathing hard. Her light was flickering now, unsteady, as if her body had drained too much. He helped her sit down, pressing a wet cloth to her head. "You're burning up," he said. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Her glow faded more with each breath. Ethan's heart twisted. She was breaking down. "What's happening to you?" he asked. "I used too much," she whispered. "My body wasn't made to survive here this long. The light inside me, it's failing." Ethan refused to accept that. "No, you're going to make it. We just need time." But time was the one thing they didn't have. Outside, the ship landed hard on the edge of the ridge. Dust shot into the air. Lights blinked through the haze, and the sound of metallic boots echoed across the dry earth. Ethan peeked through the cracked window and counted at least 4 more figures heavily armored, moving in a tight formation. They weren't trackers. They were executioners. Dominion elites. Their job was simple: erase the past, leave nothing breathing behind. Ethan turned to Sulla. "We're not making a last stand. We're getting out of here." She shook her head weakly. "We can't outrun them." But Ethan had already grabbed the Dominion device they'd buried, the strange glowing core she had protected all these years. "You said this holds memory," he said. "What if we use it?" Her eyes widened in panic. "No. That data is unstable. If you connect it to power without calibration, it could—" "Exactly," Ethan said, cutting her off. "If they want it destroyed so badly, maybe we give them a reason to stay far, far away." He took the device to the cellar and linked it to the old solar grid, patching wires with shaking hands. Every spark made him flinch. Sella followed, still trying to stop him. "You'll destroy the ranch, yourself, maybe the whole valley." He looked up at her, eyes full of quiet determination. "If it means you get out of here alive, I'll burn it all." She grabbed his arm. "I won't let you die for me. And help me make it count," he said. She paused, then slowly nodded. Together, they calibrated the device, overloading it so it would send out a burst of raw memory, an echo of everything the Dominion feared: rebellion, data leaks, genetic proof, and truths they tried to bury. The Dominion would never allow that kind of contamination to spread. Once it fired, they would either flee or wipe the area from orbit. Either way, Sella had to go. Ethan led her to the old stable, where his grandfather's dust-covered crawler was still buried under a tarp. It was old, slow, but it had shielding. He gave her the keys. "Drive east. Hide until morning. Don't stop until the sky is clear." She looked at him, tears building. "You're not coming?" He shook his head. "I'll trigger it manually. Make sure they see me. You're the one who matters." She stepped closer, hands cupping his face. "I was ready to die here," she whispered. "But then you opened that door." He leaned his forehead against hers. "And you made me care again." Their lips met in a kiss that tasted like dust and fire and goodbye. Then she climbed into the crawler, started the engine, and vanished into the dark. Ethan returned to the cellar, connected the last wire, and watched as the core began to glow brighter, hotter, alive with memory. Outside, the Dominion soldiers reached the porch. The door creaked. Ethan stood at the top of the cellar steps, hands steady, heart racing. "Come get it," he muttered. He hit the trigger. The house exploded in a flash of blue and gold light, a pulse of energy and memory screaming out across the sky. Dominion tech fried instantly. Their soldiers collapsed. The ship trembled. And in the hills, Sella looked back as the glow lit the horizon. Her hand pressed to her heart. "Ethan," she whispered. But the night answered with silence. The morning came slow and heavy, the air over the valleys still buzzing with leftover static from the explosion. Smoke rose in a lazy spiral from where Ethan's ranch used to stand. Nothing left but scorched earth and shattered metal. The house was gone. The signal device was gone. And somewhere beneath the ashes, so was Ethan, or so Sella thought. She had driven all night through the canyons, the crawler nearly collapsing under Dominion shrapnel damage and exhaustion. She stopped only when her hands stopped working, and even then, her heart refused to rest. The sunrise painted her skin in soft orange, but there was no warmth in her chest. She crouched beside a rock ledge and stared back at the ridge. No ships. No movement. The Dominion had left. The plan had worked. A memory blast had spooked them. The data Ethan released was too dangerous to clean up. They retreated, fast and silent, leaving no one behind to ask questions. But she knew the cost. She closed her eyes and let the tears fall, silent and slow. "I told you not to die for me," she whispered to the wind. Her glow was fading now. With Ethan gone, the little hope she had left was flickering. She didn't want to hide anymore. She didn't want to run. She just wanted someone to care, and for the first time in years, someone had. A sound came from behind her. She turned sharply, eyes wide, ready to fight, but it wasn't a soldier. It was a man limping, clothes torn, face covered in soot. Ethan. He walked like a ghost, one arm clutched against his ribs. But he was real, alive, breathing. Sella ran to him and caught him just before he collapsed. "You idiot," she sobbed, holding his face. "You stayed." "I told you," Ethan whispered, voice cracked but smiling. "This ranch is mine." She laughed through tears. "It's gone." "Then we'll build a new one," he said. "Somewhere they can't find us." He leaned against her, and together they sat under the rising sun while the sky turned soft above them. Hours later, an EarthGov transport ship landed in the open field. They had picked up the Dominion signal burst and came looking for survivors. Ethan and Sella told their story half-truth, half-silence. They didn't mention the memory core, or the second blast device buried under the barn, or the fact that Dominion had stepped on Earth soil again. But EarthGov knew. They'd seen enough. Instead of punishing them, they offered something else: protection, transport, even a new start. But Ethan refused. "I don't want a city job or a lab," he said. "I want land, open skies." And her. He looked at Sella, who was now wearing a borrowed jacket and watching the clouds roll across the sky. "Then take this," the officer said, handing him a second land deed clean, untied to Dominion or any contract. "This one's real." "And it's free." Ethan blinked. "You're giving me land?" "No," the officer said. "You already earned it." The new ranch was smaller, nestled in the mountain valleys farther east. It had no fences, no old buildings, just wild flowers, trees, and a spring. They built everything from scratch together. Ethan fixed the roof while Sella planted herbs. From her world, he showed her how to drive a real tractor. She showed him how to shape light with her hands. They learned each other slowly, piece by piece. She sang under the stars sometimes, and he listened with his eyes closed. At night, she curled beside him, whispering words from her world, soft and ancient. They didn't talk about war anymore. Not much. But sometimes Sella would look up at the sky and ask, "Do you think they'll come back?" And Ethan would answer, "Let them try." Months passed, the flowers bloomed, the sky stayed quiet. And one morning, a new signal blinked softly on. A device near their bed, not a threat, but a message. From a distant world, others like Sella were still out there, hiding, surviving, waiting. She turned to Ethan, her voice strong. "We can help them." He took her hand, smiled, and nodded. One ranch at a time. And somewhere in the distance, where red dust met silver sky, a story once buried in the cellar began to bloom again, not with fear, but with light and love and the kind of hope that even war couldn't burn. The end.